Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Crash, and today I want to talk about is Destiny 2 worth playing in 2022? So let's get into this. The short answer, yes and no. The long answer has a little bit more to it. The first thing I want to talk about is the story. The story in this game is really fun and has a lot of great parts, but you have to spend money to get into it. If you do not spend any money at all on this game, you are not going to get any type of story at all, and this game is definitely worth a skip. But if you are going to spend money, then you can find it in their DLCs, which are really well made, like Forsaken and the Witch Queen. Sadly, the story of Forsaken is completely wiped out and gone from the game, which I will be going more into later on in the video, but let's talk about the Witch Queen. The Witch Queen is really good and really well set up. The story is more about the Hive and like about their gods and how they were lied to and stuff like that. And it's really cool and really enjoyable to go all the way through. The design of the maps that you look at, like on the planet that you go to, that you unlock Mars, it's really cool seeing all the set scenes and all of the environments that they set up, and they did really good job on those. Sadly, aside from those two, I've been told that the other two DLCs aren't that great, like Beyond Light and Shadowkeep. Like, they don't have that great of a story. And from the 30th anniversary, the little story that they do give you, it's not that great, and it's kind of like a whatever thing. And sadly, the other two DLCs, even though they didn't have the best stories, are completely gone too, just like how Forsaken's is. But at least there is one saving grace for this game, and that's the gameplay. The gameplay is really good and really smooth. Like, all the guns feel really good and really fun to use. Like, the hand cannons are slow, but they pack a punch. Same with the shotguns, but they're more close range. And then you have like pulse rifles, which are 3 rounders for back of the map shooting, stuff like that. And it feels really fun using that on the different types of enemies that you see throughout the campaign and from multiplayer things like strikes, nightfalls, and raids and stuff like that. Well, let's get into activities. The first activity I want to talk about is Gambit. Gambit is a PvP slash PvE mode, so pretty much what you're trying to do is grab motes and then put them into a machine. And with putting the motes inside the machine, it spawns a boss at the end. But pretty much the way it turns into PvP is that there's an enemy team that also puts motes in to try to spawn a boss. And pretty much when you put motes in, it spawns an enemy on your side to try to attack you so that you cannot put motes in. And another way of doing this that they have is that there's a portal that you can go through, and once you go through the portal, enemy can go to you and kill your team, and it either drops motes or it brings the health back up depending on which phase you're on. And this mode is pretty good, but the only problem with it is it hasn't been updated in a long time, so it's kind of been left to die. Like, there's only a couple maps and a couple different enemies. So if you really want a good mode, I would probably recommend playing Strikes instead. The next two modes I want to talk about is Strikes and Nightfalls. They're pretty much the same thing, so I'm going to put them together. Strikes are pretty much small little activities that tell you a little bit of story, and then you go into a mission, you take out the enemies, you get to the end, and you fight a boss. It's really fun, and it's not that hard. It's usually just like a simple thing. You go shoot a couple guys, fight the boss, and then you're on to the next one. Nightfalls are a little bit different because they have a challenge to them, because you can change the difficulty of them. So you can go from a really easy strike that you could do within like 5 to 6 minutes to like a 10 to 20 minute, maybe even 30 minutes, depending on what difficulty you're playing, because it really adds a lot more challenge to it, and it's really enjoyable if you can find the team for it. The only problem I have with Strikes is it seems you get a lot of the same maps over and over again, and it doesn't really play through all the other ones, which there's a lot of them, weirdly enough, because all I get is like the original ones from when the game first came out. When they won't give me like Shadowkeep, I gotten a single one from Shadowkeep, and then they have other strikes from the new one, like Witch Queen. I've only gotten that like once or twice, and it sucks. I don't think it's really a huge issue, but it sucks not being able to try out different maps that I haven't seen before. Then you have dungeons. Dungeons are really cool, and like they play at your mind a little bit. They have like puzzles and stuff, and it makes it really enjoyable. Like the new one, Duality, where you have like bells that you have to shoot, and it brings you into like this nightmare realm. And they did it really well because like they have it so when you shoot the bell, the whole map around you changes, and like certain walls that were in front of you are completely gone. And it was really cool to see the first time, and it was really enjoyable playing against the boss and like all the other enemies that are in it, even though the snipers in that are a huge pain in the ass, but everything else is really fun about it. And it was a really unique experience to play through. It kind of felt like that one mission from Titanfall 2 where you go back in time and then back into the future. The only problem I have with the dungeons is certain ones are just downright not enjoyable at all. But you can say that about all the other ones, like Strikes. There's certain ones that are just not fun. But and there was one key thing I had a huge problem with the Duality one, and it just kept happening over and over. It was a glitch where at the end you fight a boss, and for some reason sometimes the boss, when you shoot the bells, it immediately wipes your team. Everyone on your team just dies. There isn't a reason around it. Everyone just dies, and I don't know why it happens. We've tried to test it to see if it was killing enemies and then like going in while we're killing a sniper. That didn't do anything, so it wasn't that. It was enemy spawning. We tried that. Nothing happened. We still didn't die, but it was just always random. They kind of just randomly kill you. I think it's because they get the time limit wrong on accident, and it just completely wipes your team. Now let's get into raids. So far I've only played 2 raids, so I'm not going to say much about it because I personally do not have the experience to say too much about it. But so far from the ones I have played, they are really good. So the ones I have played were Leviathan and Vault of Glass. Leviathan was a good intro for Destiny 2 players that are new to the franchise and just wanted to start getting into raids. It was a great intro, but sadly is not in the game anymore. But it was a great way to show like puzzles, the different types of bosses you can see, and even the exotics or different items that you can collect throughout it. Vault of Glass was another really good one. Sadly, the ending wasn't that great because the final boss is kind of easy, but that's kind of just depending on what team you got, so you can't really fault the game for that. But that's just my personal experience with it. The next thing I did, I got showed a mission from my buddy Cheesecake. It's a mission that shows you the intro of a raid called Vow of the Disciples, which was really cool. It lets you play a little bit of the intro of how the raid goes throughout it. So pretty much what you do at the beginning is you kill these ogres and collect shards, and you put them back into the machine to make it move. But if you stay outside the circle of the machine for too long, you end up dying of darkness, which is a really cool idea that I really like to make it a little bit more challenging instead of you just putting stuff in the machine and then going to the next. And then they show you inside a little bit more of what you're going to be doing throughout the raid, which is they show these symbols on the walls and pillars, showing you pretty much what the symbols that you're going to want to memorize for the raid, which is another enjoyable feature I like because it lets you get a little bit of a snippet of what you're going to be doing if you actually play the actual raid. The next part of multiplayer I want to talk about is the PvP, so like Crucible and stuff like that. Personally, I am not a huge fan of it because of certain weapons. I feel like if you have been playing for a long time, you kind of have like a somewhat of an advantage, like with gear and weapons and certain other things, because you either have been playing for a long time or have certain DLCs, so certain weapons aren't able to be obtained as a person that doesn't want to spend any money, which can lead to a lot of bad matchmaking issues, which like you could have like a new player playing against someone that has been playing for a long time, which really defeats the purpose of trying to get into the game because of you jumping in and getting killed multiple times by someone that's been playing for a long time. So next I want to talk about the seasonal activities they have, which change every 100 days. In these activities, you get to do missions that put you in a fire team with 5 other people. Sadly, these missions are only accessible if you buy the season pass, which is $10. You also get the battle pass, which is easy to level in with or without spending money. I will say though, in my personal experience, playing Destiny 2 is much more enjoyable experience playing with friends because you get great moments like these.
What the fuck is this, bro? This is the dungeon, bro. You're gonna want to use a sword. Swap to sword.
Oh my god, dude.
Bro,
Sword,
why you
bro.
sound like that, bro? Get closer to your goddamn mic, nigga.
Man, stop. Bro, I ain't gonna fuck, man. Fuck. What the fuck is this, dude?
Bro, that's
Ah,
your
this
queen,
bitch
bro.
is in love with this weird, ugly ass dude.
Bro, that's your queen,
Ah!
bro.
Bro, where we going, bro?
Bro, you act like
We left
you haven't
someone,
done
bro.
this dungeon, bro.
Fuck is this, dude?
We did this like a week ago. Not even.
Yeah.
Oh, it's this shit again, bro?
Yeah, we have
Yes.
to.
There's nothing here. You fine with that?
I was trying to record. Your ass killed me.
Yeah. What are you gonna record here?
My balls?
God, I can't.
That's what I thought.
What do you mean? That's what I thought.
That's what I thought.
How the fuck am I supposed to do that when I'm dead?
Yes.
Oh yeah. No, wait. Come back here. Todd, you can take a video of this.
I already am.
Of the bell.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm
Yeah.
taking a video
And,
of.
and then let's go up.
Oh, she's
Walking.
massive.
Go walking.
It's walking the fuck.
Yeah,
Why you
man. You're
crouch
fucking
walking?
slow, nigga.
You're crouch walking.
And I'm so faster than you.
I'm so glad
bro.
you're here.
What's the final boss? Can I just ult?
No.
Morning.
Oh, okay. So you recorded going in?
Yeah.
Alright, then we're gonna cut out this part and we're just gonna jump down straight down here. Oh my god. Yeah, we're cutting out of that. You know, we're cutting that shit out. Like what happened there?
What the fuck happened?
You just jumped down.
Well, let's get into the last thing I have a problem with in this game. The last thing I really have a huge problem with in this game is definitely the microtransaction store. I'm not a huge fan because the way they push it is kind of it's a good way of doing it because you know it gets a lot more people into the store, but personally I don't like it because I feel like it's a little bit predatory. Like when you get an engram from the battle pass, they tell you to go to the store to unlock it. And once you get to the store, you see all the stuff you can buy and stuff like that. It's a good way for like a marketing strategy to push to buy different items because it's right up in your face every time you go there. Same with the bright dust currency that you can earn. It pretty much makes you go to the store to go look at stuff like that. And they also do this with DLCs, which I'm not a huge fan of. They kind of have like this push where like they say like, oh, you can play this mission of the first DLC, and then after you play the mission, they throw a paywall in front of you. I'm not a huge fan of that type of stuff. It's not personally my favorite type of thing, but I get why they do it. It's to pretty much just market their game a little bit more by making you go there and pay for silver and stuff. But the huge problem with this is I did get a couple concerns from how they removed like Forsaken and the other two DLCs, and I feel like at some point in time, at the time I feel like it was just getting removed just to be removed, but I might be wrong. It might have been an actual storage issue, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But it sucks not being able to play that content that you paid for, and it's all just completely wiped out. And I always had the concern of them doing it to other ones, but luckily they said that they're done doing that now. But is Destiny still worth playing in 2022? It depends on what type of player you are. And if you aren't going to spend money, you could still find some enjoyment in the game, but most of that comes from the DLCs. But for a person paying for content, then this game is a great game to hop into as a new or an old player. Remember, returning to the game. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, remember to leave a like and a sub. And if you can, leave a comment down below on how I can do better. Until next time, see ya. Holy shit, this took until 8 in the morning.